Hi, this is Topher with OS Training. We're going to start a series on how to build a site for a club. I'm going to build one for my book club, but we can do it for just about any kind of club. And I can show you how that'll work. This is a garden club. And we have some pretty common things. There's a calendar, news, history, programs, about us, and members only. And then on the home page, there's information about the club. Here's a book club called the Grand Rapids Sci-Fi Fantasy Book Club. They don't have their own page, they have a Facebook page, and they use Meetup to organize their meetings. This works pretty well, as long as all you need is organization of your meetings. This is the grhomebrewers.com club site. And similar to the Garden Club, we have meeting notes, news, and some general information. Interestingly, both the Garden Club and the Brewers Club are on WordPress. And then we have here the Mid-Michigan Knitters Guild. This is a knitting club, and similar to the others, they have meeting locations, calendar, programs, members things, and a few other bits of information. This site is actually built with a Google tool. And if we view source, you can see that the whole thing is inside of a frame, and the actual site is at sites.google.com. There's nothing particularly wrong with that. It's not very good for search engine optimization, but then the site is on Google, so they shouldn't have too much trouble there. So we're going to build a site with a nice calendar that will show meeting times and locations. And then we're also going to set it up so that each member of my book club could do blog posts reviewing books. And then they'll have very nice looking author bio pages. Our site right now is really empty. No posts, no pages, no comments, no plugins. So I hope you'll follow along and you can see how we turn this into something really cool looking. The first thing we're going to do in our book club site is set up our theme. I've chosen 2011, but I don't want to edit this one directly because then if there are any updates, it'll overwrite whatever I made, or I simply won't get them. So I'm going to make a child theme of 2011. Check out how easy this is. This is the Sublime text editor, but before I start editing any text, I'm going to pull up Finder. I'm using Desktop Server to host my local development site. So right here under Sites, there's my club.dev, and I go into WP Content and Themes, and there's 2011. So first I'm going to make a new folder. Called Book Club. And it put it at the top because it starts with a B. So now I drag it down to my themes folder. And now I'm going to go into 2011 and find style.css. Copy it. And paste it in here. There we are. So now I want to edit this in Sublime. So there we are. Now because I'm making a child of 2011, I don't actually want any of this CSS in this file. So I'm going to click here, and then in Sublime, you can see my entire file over here. And I can grab here and drag to the bottom, hold Shift and click at the bottom, and hit backspace. And there we are. So now I have a style.css with just the comment header. So now I can make it be anything I want. I'll leave the theme URI at 2011. I'll leave the version and licensing information, and tags, and the text domain. Actually, the text domain I'm going to change. That's for translation of the various theme elements. One last thing to do is now make it a child of 2011. And that's all there is to it to make this a child theme. Call it Template 2011. If we come over here, now we can see that I have a book club theme that is completely empty. I can even activate it though. And if I look at the front of my website, it should be exceptionally boring. And sure enough, that's because I have not yet pulled in the CSS from the parent theme. So let's do that now. The first thing I'm going to do is create a file called functions.php. And you can see I have it right in my book club folder. And now I'm going to put in a little PHP. So I open my PHP and I create a function called getParentThemeCSS. And right here where it says make-theme, you need to give a unique name to this. Now this code was sampled from a child of make. Instead, I'm going to call it "2011-child-theme". Then we need to tell it where the CSS file is. So we use this function called getTemplateDirectoryURI, which means the parent theme directory, and then we tell it we want style.css. And we join these two things with this little dot. So that's our whole function right there. And then we use add action, and we say on WP and Q scripts, run this function. Now, because functions.php is an automatically parsed file, we don't have to include this anywhere. We just need to have it exist in the root directory of our folder. So now, let's reload again. And now we have all the CSS from our parent. Meanwhile, our child has no CSS at all. This allows us to write only our custom CSS right in here. So our child theme has only child-specific custom CSS. So now we have our own theme, and we can get rolling customizing it. Between videos, I went ahead and I made a book review post. This is an excellent book, and I recommend it. But I noticed my site doesn't really look like my book club site. So I'm going to change that using the customizer. There's the title, and I'm not going to have a tagline. So now for the header image, I can choose from these that came included with the theme, or I can add a new one. Now this is much too big for the space, so it allows me to crop it. And there, I can see the image right there. For layout, I can choose to have sidebars or not. I could choose a background image, and I could set up my widgets, and I could choose a static front page. I'm not going to do any of that yet. There we are. Now the first thing that we're going to do is set up our site authors pages. These are members of the book club, or garden club, or knitting club, or whomever, who are going to be making blog posts. In my book club, we'll post book reviews. In a knitting club, you might post yarn reviews or pattern reviews. In a garden club, you might discuss a new place to buy gardening materials. It could be anything. But we want each site contributor to have an excellent looking page. Now, if you click on the title of this post, at the bottom it says this entry was posted in book review by Topher. So this is my author archive, and it's pretty boring. It says the author archives for Topher, and then it lists all my posts in full text. So we're going to change some things. We're going to put at the top here a photo of the author, and then some bio information. And then we're going to list their posts, not in full text, but by excerpt, so that you can get many more of them on a page and still have it be easy to read. The first thing we're going to do is edit the bio. So if we go to Users, and there I am. So we already have my first name, last name, nickname, and how to display my name publicly. I'll choose that. Then I can put in my website and some biographical information. And now we'll update the profile. Now you'll note there's no place in here for my picture. So we're going to grab a plugin real quick. We're going to get one called Easy Author Image. And it's right here. We'll install and activate. And now we'll go back and edit my user. And now at the bottom there's a place for a picture. I'm not going to put my real picture in. I will do this one. And you can see here at the bottom, make this my author profile picture. And now I'll hit Update Profile. And there it is. Now, just because we have this image here doesn't mean it'll magically appear on the website. There are a couple things that need to happen. One is that your theme needs to support it, and the other is that avatars need to be enabled. If we go to Settings, Discussion, and scroll down, you can see here's the Avatars section, and you need to have avatars turned on. Otherwise, they won't show no matter how many times you set it. So now if we come look at our site, you can see Author Archives, Topher. There's our image, About Topher, and my bio. And now we have the full stories below. We want to make a few changes to that. So in our next video, I'll show you how to do that. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to take the author template from the parent theme, copy it to the child theme, and make changes. Here we are in Sublime Text 2. I'm going to open 2011, and I'm going to open author.php. And then the very first thing I'm going to do is save as and put it in the book club folder. There. Now I have author.php inside my book club theme folder. So let's take a look at what's going on in here. At the top we have some comment information, and we're getting the site header. All normal stuff. We start our content area, and then we say if we have posts, Then we get the first post, so we know what author we're dealing with. Then we have right here our page title, Author Archives. Then we get a URL for the author. We use the function getTheAuthor, which gets the name. And we print it here inside the link. And you can see that right here. Now you can see that it's an H1, which would normally be very large, but through CSS they made it small. We can choose to have that on there or not. Then we rewind posts so that we're not using up that first one like we did before. Then we print here the navigation for next set and previous set, which we don't have right now because we only have one post. Then we check to see if we have the author description. If we do, then we start printing some information about it. Here's author info, author avatar, and then we use this function getAvatar, which goes to get the image. Now, the plugin that we used to install custom images ties into getAvatar, so we don't need to change this at all. Then we're printing the description, which in an H2 shows the name with about at the beginning, and then prints the author meta description. And you can see all of that right here. Now I'm going to change some of this. I don't like how it has author archives and then information about. So I'm going to get rid of author archives altogether. That means then that we don't need to waste CPU cycles on getting the first post from the database and then rewinding it. So I'm simply going to cut out all of that information. And then down here where it says about, I'm going to say author archives : and save and reload. And there we have it. I've gotten rid of the header that I don't want and put in a different one. Except it only has the first name, and I want first and last name. What we want to use is getTheAuthor meta and use first name, put in a space, and then getTheAuthor meta, there, now we have first and last name. Let's take a quick look at that function, getTheAuthor meta, because it's really useful. getTheAuthor meta can get any of these pieces of information. So let's make it also get the user URL. So right here below description, I'm going to put in an unordered list. Then I'm going to put in a translatable title. There. The underscore E means echo this string, but in a way that translation software knows that it exists, and so that it can change it for us. And then I'm making it part of the book club translation table. Then I echo get the author meta user URL. There, now let's take a look at what it looks like. And there it is. Now we don't want to simply print a URL to the screen without testing it first. So we're going to do escape URL. And now if there's any funny business in that field, then it won't get sent to the end user. Now we can also make that URL a link. Simply by copying that text which makes the URL appear, pasting it right there. And there we are. Now it's a link. Now we could do this with all of this information if we wanted to. But I'm not sure we want to make it all public. So I think I'm going to leave it just as it is. So my next step is to make this not be full content, but rather an excerpt. In this video, we're going to take a look at making this archive page use excerpts instead of the full text. We're looking here at author.php. Here's our descriptive header showing our name and all of that we worked on in the last video. And here's the loop, which gets all of the posts and renders them. But what's interesting is that all it's doing is using getTemplatePart to pull in a content file. GetTemplatePart looks for files that are separated by a hyphen. Let's take a look at what options we have here. Here in 2011, we have content-aside, featured, gallery, image, intro, link, page, quote, single, status, and then just content.php. So our code here is looking for content, hyphen, and a post format. Except we're not using post formats, and so the second variable remains empty, and so it's using simply content.php. Now we can make this ask for anything we wish. So I'm going to make it ask for content-author. And now, because content-author does not yet exist, we should get nothing. So now that we're looking for content-author.php, we should create it. So I'm going to open content.php from 2011 and immediately save as over here content-author. Now this file, being taken from content.php, is trying very hard to be everything to everyone. So right here at the top, there's a section that says, if this is sticky, and then do this stuff. We don't want any of that because we're not looking for sticky. Just rip that right out and take out the associated and if. And now, just to be sure we're looking at the right one, I'm going to put in an exclamation point. Now we should get one right here. And there it is. So now we know we're using the right template file. Now, it says if this is a post, print when it was posted on. And you can see that right here. We'll leave that. Then it says if comments are open and there is no password required, then put in the comments pop-up link. We'll leave that as well. And here it says if this is the search page, then show the excerpt. Otherwise, show the whole thing. Now this is where we don't actually want the whole thing. So we're going to take some of this out. Let's take out the test for search and the else and the end if. So now we're doing both the excerpt and the full content. So let's just get rid of the full content. And we'll save. And there we are. We have the title, when it's posted, the comments bubble, and the excerpt. It automatically puts in a continue reading and leaves a when it was posted. So now this page could hold 10 or 15 posts without getting very long. Let's take a look if there's anything else we want to clean up. Here we have entry meta in the footer with categories. We want to keep that. Tag links. If comments are open. And there's a separator, throw this in there. And then if we're logged in, make an edit link. So it looks like everything else is good. So let's start at the top. We're printing the title. We're printing the meta. We're printing the comments bubble. And that's the end of the header. Then we print an entry summary with the excerpt. And then all of the footer information. Now keep in mind that this information is not in author.php. It's in content-author.php. This makes the code much more modular. I could reuse this template in any other archive page. So looking one last time at author.php, here's our content loop, and all we're doing is get template part, content, author, which builds out a file name called content-author.php and includes it. One last thing we want to do before leaving the author archives is work some CSS magic on the header here. I'm not really fond of how it looks. I'd like the image to be bigger, and I'd like the title to be bigger. So let's take a look at how that works. To get my bearings on where I am on this page, in Chrome I'm going to right-click and inspect element. Now I'm going to scroll here to body, and you can see that I am on an author class page. You can also see that I'm on author-topher, author-1, and I'm logged in, etc. But this author is what really interests me. And then here we have author avatar. Now you can see that it has width and height dimensions put in there, and that the image itself is actually 300 by 300 pixels. So we need to work some CSS on that. And then author description H2 is the title. So I'm going to go back to Sublime and pull up my style.css file, which until now has been empty. So I'm going to do .author, which says I'm on the author page. Then the first thing I'm going to do is make my avatar larger. So in ID author-avatar, or simply avatar, we'll do this. There, we'll just leave it at that and see what changes. And as I expected, it stretched a little bit. Now, for height, instead of giving it a distance, let's say auto. There. Now it made it proportional. My picture happens to be square, but if it weren't square and I needed to keep it proportional, I would have to know the proper dimensions for both width and height. However, using auto allows me to set just one of them and the other will take care of itself. So now that we know how that works, I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger. There we are. Now let's look again here at the title. It says over on the right that the font size is 15px. If I uncheck that in Chrome, then it makes it the default, which is even smaller. I'd like mine to be bigger, so I'm going to make it 20px. So I'm going to do .author for the page, then author-description ID, and then H2. There. Now you can still see the old style here, but it's crossed out because my new style overrides it. That's the cascade in cascading style sheets. Now I'd also like to change the bio right here. And you can see in the Chrome inspector that it is not wrapped in any HTML at all. What it really needs is some automatic paragraph tags placed around it. So let's take a look and see what we can do about that. I'm going to go back to author.php, and right here is where we can find the description. And now I'm going to show you a really cool trick. We're going to do apply filters, the content on the description. So what we've told WordPress to do is to take this information and pretend it's stored in a content field. It'll do all of the automatic paragraph tagging. If there were images in here, it would print them properly, etc. However, we need to use get the author meta so that it can feed properly into the filters, which means then that we need to echo. So we echo, apply filters, the content, get the author meta, description. So now let's see how it looks. And there we are. Now you can see there's a space here because it has a paragraph tag. Now I have an unordered list here, and I don't want the bullet and I don't want it indented. So I'm going to look at .author for the page, author description for the ID, then UL. Turn off the list style type. Turn off the margin and the padding. There. Now we have no bullet and it's flush left. So as long as we're here, let's put in one more item. It's extremely common for even advanced developers to look up lists of things like this. So now the author URL has no bullet, no margin, and no padding. So now our author page looks like something that I would enjoy using for my own sci-fi book club. It has a nice big header, a nice big image, well-formatted paragraph, and the author URL. Another extremely common need on a club site is a calendar. This allows you to set up meeting times, event times, and other things. I'm looking here at the Sugar Events Calendar Lite plugin on WordPress.org. This is made by Pippin Williamson, and you can see here there are quite a few features. One of the features that the Lite one does not support is recurring events, and I really wanted that one, so I went ahead and I got the paid version, which for a single site is only $18. That's not bad at all. Down here you can see some of the advanced features, some basic usage, a live demo, some support, and also some free add-ons that work even with the light version. There's the Gravity Forms add-on, a Ninja Forms add-on, and a Google Maps add-on. The Forms add-ons allow you to have people register for events, and the Maps add-on obviously lets you say where the event is happening. So let's take a look. I've already installed Sugar Events Calendar, and over here on the left you can see the events field. There's a page for license key, which you need in order to get automatic updates and support. Categories, which work just like normal categories. And then there's the list of events. Let's go ahead and add one. Let's say Book Club Meeting. Then we can put in a date and time. And set it to every month. And then we can say when we want it to end. But I'm going to leave that blank. And publish. There, now we have an event. But we were not able to put in the address. So now I'm going to go over to Plugins, Add New, and get the Google Maps add-on. And now, on our event, at the bottom, is just a place for an address. And there we are. That's really all there is to it for configuring this calendar. In our next video, we'll take a look at creating some calendar pages for viewing these events. Now that we have an event, let's make a calendar page. I'm going to go to Pages, Add New, simply call it Calendar, and then on this page it says we can just use this shortcode. Now I can tell by this gray background that it actually pasted in some HTML as well, so I'm going to switch over to the text version and paste it there, and then go back to visual and publish. And now we will view this page. And there it is. I don't want comments on this page, so I'll just turn those right off and reload. And there we are. Now I can click on it and it goes to a page with the date, the time, the description, which I wrote as very, very small, and a Google map. Now if we got the Ninja Forms or Gravity Forms add-on, we could make it so that people could sign up to attend this meeting. My particular group is small enough that we don't need that. Now I had set my event originally to recurring, and then I went at not recurring, but let's set it to weekly and update, and now look, we can go into May, and there you can see it. It's pretty simple. Let's set this to weekly meeting category. And then let's make a new event for Meet Neil Stevenson. There we are. We set it to this Saturday at 8 p.m. And we won't put in an end time. We don't need recurring. And I'm going to grab the address of Schuler Books. There. Now let's look at our calendar again. And there we are. Now you can see here that we can create a calendar only for specific categories. If you had a club where there were daily meetings for different kinds of projects, I can see where you would want to render a calendar showing only the category for that event. Here it says, along with calendar views, Sugar Event Calendar also has an events archive that shows the events in the order they occur and in the same styling and layout as your current WordPress theme. It's at your site/events. So let's take a look at that. And there we have two events. The spacing is bad here because there's supposed to be a Google map right here, and it's not working because I'm working on a local development server, and Google Maps doesn't really like that very much. Normally they would render here just fine. So there we have it. An events listing, a nice little calendar, and an easy way to manage all of the events. You can see right here on the archive page that it shows the event date and time and categories. We can filter categories. Or show all. So I hope this calendar meets your needs in organizing meetings for your club. There are other calendars. There's an excellent one from Modern Tribe that's a little more expensive but has many more features. So if you find yourself needing more features than this particular plugin provides, I'd suggest taking a look at that one as well. We'll probably do a full review in another video series at some point. Now that we have both authors set up, as well as calendar, let's put some good useful information into the sidebar regarding both. First, let's look at the events calendar options. The calendar we chose comes with 4 possible widgets. The first is a calendar. Let's take a look at that. It's a full-size calendar, complete with Ajax controls, so you can change it without leaving the page. And events are rendered as a little dot, which you can click on. If you hover over the dot, the title of the event appears. Another option is the events list. And you can choose past or upcoming. A category, and the number of events to show. And there we are. Now we have here an event filter, which adds some controls to either the calendar or the list. Personally, I don't like the way it looks, so I'm going to take that back off. But I do like the list more than the calendar, so we'll leave that. And then there's an option to display categories. And you can see them right here. And if you click on one, it should take you to an archive. In this case, it didn't. And that's because the permalinks didn't get refreshed properly when I installed the plugin. To fix this sort of thing, you can almost always go to Settings, Permalinks, and simply hit Save, and then refresh. And there we are, it's all fixed. But I'm not crazy about that listing there either, so I'm going to take that back off. So at the moment, I have an upcoming events list. But I also want a list of authors. We made those really excellent author archive pages. We want to show them off. So we're going to go to Plugins, Add New, and we're going to get one called Author widget. And there it is. And now we go back to widgets. And here's authors, displays blog authors with avatars and archive links. And we're going to display all, even those who have not written posts, because what this really is a list of members. We'll leave the avatar size at 48 by 48 for now. And there we are. It's a little bit ugly, and so we'll do some CSS in a few minutes. But now we have in the sidebar a list of upcoming events and a list of site members, and that makes the sidebar much more useful. At the moment, our home page is a blog rule, simply the recent posts. Let's make a page to hold this, and then also make a better home page. Just call this one News. And we'll add a new one called Home. And then here from the home page, we'll go to Customize. And we'll look at Static Front Page. And we'll say that the home page displays a static page, which is called Home, and the post page is on News. There. Now we have a very boring home page, and we need to dress it up a little bit. Now let's put a little content onto our home page. There we go. Let's change the news page to be blog. That'll make more sense. To change a page's slug, you can simply edit it and remove everything and hit OK, and it will automatically put in what works for your title. And there we are. Home, blog, and calendar. In our next video, we'll do a little CSS work and make things look a little more attractive. Let's take a look at this Site Members widget. It's pretty ugly at the moment. Let's try and make it more attractive. The first thing I want to do is actually add a second member. So let's do that. Now these new users don't need to be administrators. They can be contributors. There we are. And now let's add one more. And we will make him a contributor. And now let's reload. And there we are. Now we can see that they're ordered alphabetically by first name. And now let's edit Steve. Set his public display name as just Steve. And we'll do the same for Bill. And reload. And there we are. So now we have Bill, Steve, and Topher. What I would like to do is make them render 2 by 2. So let's inspect these and see what we have. So here's the list item. Then there's a link. Inside the link is an image. And then the name in strong tags. Then the closed link and the close li. And this is inside a class called author widget. So let's write some CSS. On author widget UL, we want list style type none. We'll save that, reload, and now we don't have bullets on them. So now we want to float them left. All right, so they float left. Now, let's set strong to be display block and clear left so it comes under the images. There we are. So now they're floating properly and the names are under the images. But we want to put some spacing on the right side of them. That's a little better. But honestly, I don't think we could fit 3, and so we might as well make the images that much bigger. Oh, looks like that was too much. There we go. Now, there is more spacing under the strong than I am comfortable with. And I'd like the strongs to be centered. So let's do this. There we are. And then on the LIs, let's put a little margin on the bottom. So let's do this. Margin top is 0, right is 10px, bottom is 20px, and left is 0. That's a little too much. Let's make that be 10. There. And that looks really great. One last thing I want to do is make a list of book reviews in the sidebar. So let's go to Appearance, Widgets. Now the default Recent Posts widget doesn't do what we want, so we're going to get a new one. Here it is, recent posts extended. Now we have lots and lots of options here. We want to call this book reviews. We want to ignore sticky. We want posts. We want published, descending, order by date. We want to limit to book review category. And save. There we are. Now, Reamd does not have an image. So here we turn off display thumbnail. There we go. So now we have a list of book reviews on our site as well. So right on the home page, we have a list of upcoming events, a link to site members, and a list of book reviews, which are some of the most important parts of a book club. In this series, we took a look at things that are involved in making a very nice club website. I made one for a sci-fi book club, but you could make one for pretty much any club. The requirements tend to be similar across the board. Schedules, announcements, a blog, etc. Let's take a look again at some of the things that we did here. The first thing we did is make a child theme out of 2011. We did that by making a new folder in the themes directory called book-club, and in there we copied style.css from the parent. The only part we kept was this header, and then we added this template, 2011. These styles came later, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Then we made a functions file, which includes the parent CSS file. I also created a screenshot and put it in that same folder, and it's called screenshot.png. It's 880 by 660, and just putting it there makes it show on this page very nicely. Now, anytime there are updates to 2011, they can happen without stepping on any changes that we've made. We also made the home page be a static page, and on it I placed a list of our books. The black ones are books that were suggested, and the green ones are the ones that we chose. Then I put the blog on its own page. On the right, we have an upcoming events list, book reviews, and a list of club members. One of the ways we most dramatically changed the way 2011 works is on individual club member pages. We put in an image. We changed the way the title is rendered. We put in the author URL, and then we changed the archive to be excerpts instead of full text. Another major component is the calendar. Any club that has any kind of meetings needs a calendar. And this one allows us to have single events as well as recurring events. And then if you click on a single event, that event has its own page with a map on it. Let's take a look at a few of the plugins that we use to do this. The events come from Sugar Events Calendar, which is a fairly simple but very effective calendar. If you need something more complex, I recommend Modern Tribe's Events Calendar. We also added a plugin to the Sugar Events Calendar that allows us to have a Google Maps link. For users, we added a plugin that allows us to associate an image. That way we can dictate what images show up on the author pages. We also included a plugin which allows us to get recent posts extended so that we can choose to show only book reviews in the sidebar as opposed to news and announcements and things like that. This authors widget is a custom plugin as well. This does not come with WordPress, and it simply lists site authors, not to be confused with book authors from our Sci-Fi Book Club. Most clubs will have additional information, but most of it will not require fancy plugins or anything, but rather will go well on a page or a collection of posts. And then this being WordPress, you can easily create your navigation, you could create footer widgets, and all kinds of things like that. I hope you're able to take the information we covered in this series and make an excellent club site.